also have a daily television survey, so people will tell us what they watched on television the night before, both linear TV and catch-up, as well as magazines they read, newspapers they're reading, et cetera. So we can help you once you've identified your audience, thought about the campaign that you want to create, we can then help you to target that audience. Once you've released a campaign and it's out in the wild, we have a daily brand tracking service. So we're tracking nearly 2,000 consumer brands and 16 key metrics across or through the purchase funnel, as well as brand health metrics, to help you understand what sort of an impact you are having with the campaign, and particularly amongst the target audience for the campaign. And once a campaign is over, because of the large data set we have, we've been doing this for 11 years now, you're able to put the results of that campaign in context. So how did that compare to my prior campaigns? How does it compare to any campaigns I know that have run around the same time, whether it's my competitor campaigns or just brands I want to use as benchmarking? So that's the plan and track offering. And I'm going to take you through an example with Peloton, which is a brand that I've heard mentioned a couple of times today, generally thought of as a challenger brand. They ran a large television campaign over the holiday season, and I'm going to show you what we've seen related to that campaign, as well as the audience that we think they were trying to target. I should note that none of the data that I'm going to share was run specifically to track Peloton in this campaign. This is all syndicated data that we're capturing on a regular basis and are able to report back to clients. So I'm also going to look at Peloton in the context of two of its competitors, SoulCycle and Flywheel. Not quite direct competitors, but they participate in this gym space or exercise category. And the first thing we'll look at is, I mentioned how do we identify an audience. So we're going to look at considerers of these three brands. So these are the demographics and other pieces of information that bubble to the top in terms of what makes these groups unique compared to the general population. So considerers of Peloton versus the general population. All of these brands tend to skew more Democratic versus Republican. I'm not sure what to make of that. But when you look at Peloton, you can see it also skews a bit more white than its competitors, a little bit older, and tends to skew towards people who own their own homes rather than rent. If we look at attitudes towards gym membership, a lot of similarities here. So every considerers of all these brands say they want to get more toned, a little bit of variation. Folks at Peloton say they would go to a gym to access machines that they don't have access to at home. And remember, these are considerers, not customers. And then in the last column, we look at statements that people agree with. And the Peloton folks, the statements that tend to bubble to the top, again, are focused on exercise or health, as well as being able to choose premium products over standard products. For SoulCycle and Flywheel, you see things related to beauty products. So I don't know if Ule is still in the audience or not. I think she's there. Pour moi, maybe an opportunity for you. I think they're actually there's a group of women in my office who go to SoulCycle on their lunch break, and one of them remarks about the great skincare and hair care products they have at SoulCycle. I think it's called Le Labor. Is that someone you consider a competitor or have heard of? Ule? No? Okay. Maybe I'm not talking to Ule. But folks for SoulCycle and Flywheel tend to be a little bit more fashion forward or focused on skincare products and hair care products. So the idea is that Peloton probably has a persona of what they think of as their core audience. So it's many of those statements that we just looked through, and what we're going to focus on is people who agree with those three exercise statements. So generally people who exercise quite a bit, think of working out as being important for them, and also have a tendency to choose premium products. In terms of the targeting, we can look at what that group tends to watch. So on network TV, it tends to be NBC Sports. They're also watching FS1, Bravo, A&E, HGTV. You can see the apps they interact with. Interestingly, this group also says that advertising helps them to decide what they buy. And they also say that while they're watching TV, they often use a second screen to investigate or to purchase products that they see advertised on TV. So one of the concerns I heard yesterday was that maybe people who are watching TV and using a second screen are distracted, so it cuts down on the efficacy of television. This would suggest there's an alternative argument as well. So Peloton did run the campaign over the holiday. There was a his and a her campaign. So one was focused on a Peloton bike as a gift to a woman. The other one was a Peloton bike as a gift to a man. I won't play the advertisement, but we can look at some of the results from that campaign that we're seeing in our data. So there's a baseline period that we have on this chart from October to early November. The actual campaign launched on November 5th. You can see that ad awareness for Peloton started to increase shortly after the campaign launched, increases from about 10% of that target group to about 20% of people saying they've seen recent advertising for Peloton. You don't see a similar increase for SoulCycle and Flywheel. However, they did launch digital or social campaigns right around Christmas, which is those smaller increases that you see in the red and blue lines about halfway through the Peloton campaign period. Another measure that we capture is buzz. So this is capturing whether people are hearing generally positive or negative things about a brand. We ask them to consider advertising, news, and word of mouth. Again, you can see increases for Peloton over the course of the campaign, similar increases for SoulCycle and Flywheel around the time that their campaigns launched, around Christmas. And then finally, we can look at purchase consideration. And these numbers will be quite a bit lower, but you can see that purple line for Peloton does increase during the campaign period. Now, I don't have sales information for Peloton, so I don't know how many bikes they actually sold during the campaign, but certainly purchase consideration would suggest that there was an increase, and that's an increase of about 100%. So 3% of the population, or this target group, saying they would consider buying a Peloton bike before the campaign launched, peaking at 6% or so during the campaign. You can also see corresponding or similar increases for Flywheel and SoulCycle. Part of that could be seasonality leading up into the holidays and January 1st for New Year's resolutions. Part of it might be a bit of a residual effect from Peloton, because if they're promoting exercise, et cetera, it might be bringing SoulCycle and Flywheel a little bit more into people's consideration sets as well. So that was a quick view on the campaign. Oh, lastly, so these are the three metrics for Peloton all on one chart: ad awareness, buzz, and purchase consideration. This is amongst the target group. I'm now layering on the same metrics across or along the general population. So interestingly, ad awareness is actually a bit higher amongst the general population than what we would think of as a target group. That buzz score is very similar when you look at the dark red and the light red lines, but purchase consideration much better amongst those folks that we would think of as being in the target group. So from our perspective, the television campaign certainly had a benefit. How much of a benefit would really depend on how much Peloton spent on this campaign, and then to contextualize it, we would look at other campaigns that Peloton had run in the past year or so to see if this was an A+, a B-, et cetera. So that was it. Just a reminder, at YouGov, we have a large database. We work with brands. Many of the brands that I've seen here today are tracked in our database. So if you have questions about our data or how we might be able to help you grow your brands, I'm here. I have a colleague, Rishi, who's in the back. Rishi. There he is. He's been networking a lot, so most of you probably know him. Feel free to speak to us during the coffee break or any time during the day.